Intro. The year is 1505. Across the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean, a fleet unlike any the world has ever seen glides silently toward the horizon. Their hulls are not of oak or pine, but of a pale, gleaming metal that catches the sun like liquid silver. In our history, aluminum was once more precious than gold, a rare curiosity locked away in the treasuries of kings. But in this timeline, one man changes everything. At the court of Sultan Bayezid II, an ambitious court alchemist named Mehmet Çelebi stumbles upon a process to extract aluminum cheaply and in great quantities. It is a discovery that will turn the seas into highways of conquest, shatter the balance of power, and write an entirely different story for the age of empires. What if the mightiest empire of the 16th century wielded the lightest, strongest metal on Earth? This is the tale of the Aluminum Empire. Part 1. Historical context. In the early 16th century, the Ottoman Empire stands as the unrivaled power of the Eastern Mediterranean. Its banners fly over Constantinople, Cairo, and much of the Arabian Peninsula. Trade flows through its ports like lifeblood, spices from the east, silks from Persia, and gold from Africa. Yet even the greatest empire has limits. Ottoman ships, though skillfully crafted, share the same weakness as their European rivals: heavy wooden hulls that strain against the wind and waves. Speed is limited, maneuverability is precious, and maintenance is constant. Meanwhile, in the world we know, aluminum exists only in theory. It is hidden within bauxite or locked away from human hands by a stubborn bond with oxygen. Centuries will pass before the hull-roll process frees it on an industrial scale. Until then, its shimmering promise is no more than a dream, a metal so rare and difficult to produce that, in the 19th century, Napoleon III will reserve it for his most honored guests. But in this altered history, the Ottoman court is about to bypass those centuries. A single discovery will push the empire far beyond the technological frontier of its age, and leave Europe scrambling to catch up. Part 2. The chemical breakthrough. In the bustling heart of Constantinople, the palace of Sultan Bayezid II hums with life. Courtiers whisper in shaded halls, merchants display rare treasures from distant lands, and, tucked away in a secluded wing, the imperial workshop burns with a different kind of fire, the fire of curiosity. Here works Mehmet Çelebi, a man trained in the arts of both alchemy and the emerging science of natural philosophy. He is no stranger to failed experiments. Shelves are cluttered with cracked crucibles, half-filled vials, and powders of unremarkable appearance. Yet Mehmet's mind is fixed on a singular obsession, a pale metal described in ancient manuscripts, said to be lighter than iron and immune to rust. In our history, such a quest would have been futile. The chemistry required to free aluminum from its stubborn oxide form demands electricity, something centuries away. But Mehmet's world is different. Through trade and conquest, the Ottomans have acquired strange devices from China and India, lodestones of unusual strength, copper wires wound in curious patterns, and jars capable of holding a static charge for hours. Combining these wonders, Mehmet creates what he calls the lightning bath, a series of clay vessels filled with a caustic solution, linked by copper filaments, and powered by an array of charged jars. Into this bath he places crushed red earth imported from the distant mines of Anatolia, bauxite, though he does not know the name. When the current flows, the transformation is nothing short of miraculous. The surface of the ore shimmers, then blossoms into flakes of bright, silvery metal. Mehmet holds the first fragment in his palm, marveling at its lightness. It is warm from the reaction, yet resistant to the tarnish that mars other metals. Over the following months, he refines the process. The lightning bath grows larger, capable of producing ingots the size of a man's forearm. The palace blacksmiths, skeptical at first, are soon astonished. This strange metal can be hammered thin without breaking, yet it is strong enough to rival the best steel. Word reaches the Sultan quickly. Bayezid II, ever eager to strengthen his empire's grip on the seas, sees more than beauty in this silver-white treasure. He sees ships that will never rot, armor that will never rust, and weapons light enough to be wielded by the swiftest cavalry. The order is given, production will expand, secrecy will be absolute, and the age of wooden fleets is about to end. Part 3, The New Fleet of the Empire. Within a year of Mehmet Çelebi's breakthrough, the imperial shipyards along the Golden Horn are no longer scented only with tar and sawdust. Now, the air carries the sharp tang of the lightning baths, the rhythmic clanging of hammers on metal sheets, and the hiss of molten aluminum being poured into molds. The first prototypes astonish even the most seasoned shipwrights. Aluminum's lightness means a vessel of equal size can carry more cargo, more cannon, and more provisions without slowing. A galley that once needed 200 rowers can now match the same speed with 120, freeing space for soldiers or supplies. The hulls gleam like moonlight even under the harsh Mediterranean sun, their reflection dancing across the waves in dazzling flashes. Naval architects seize the opportunity to reimagine ship design. The new silver galleons stand taller, with higher freeboards and sleeker lines. Aluminum masts, light yet strong, allow for larger sails, capturing more wind without risking a capsize. Cannon carriages, once heavy oak, are replaced with metal frames that resist the corrosive salt air. The reduction in weight means Ottoman warships can carry more artillery than any European vessel afloat. The psychological effect is as potent as the military advantage. Reports from Venetian merchants tell of entire convoys turning back at the mere sight of the shimmering fleet approaching from the horizon. To sailors accustomed to the dull browns of wood and the black of tar, these radiant ships appear almost supernatural, vessels of some divine order, immune to storm and time. Training changes as well. With lighter decks and sturdier rigging, the Ottomans experiment with rapid maneuvers unheard of in traditional naval warfare, sudden turns, quick bursts of speed, even coordinated strikes where galleons weave between each other in choreographed patterns, unleashing devastating broadsides. The first true test comes in the Battle of Rhodes. The Knights Hospitaller, long a thorn in the Empire's side, prepare to resist with their fortified harbor and fleet of seasoned warships. But their walls cannot stop the relentless bombardment from aluminum warships anchored just beyond reach. Their own vessels, slow and overburdened, fall one by one to the swift and agile silver galleons. In weeks, Rhodes falls, and with it, a symbol of Christian resistance in the eastern Mediterranean. By 1510, the seas from Alexandria to Gibraltar bear a new reflection, the light of an empire now armored in silver-white metal. Part 4, Geopolitical Consequences. The fall of Rhodes is more than a military victory, it is a signal. Across the courts of Europe, urgent letters are dispatched, filled with troubling reports of white ships that move faster than the wind and fire more cannons than a Spanish galleon. Diplomats from Venice, Genoa, and Madrid struggle to believe the accounts, but the sinking of their own vessels leaves little room for doubt. Spain and Portugal, the twin giants of overseas expansion, suddenly find their Atlantic routes under silent threat. In our history, these kingdoms divided the New World between them with the Treaty of Tordesillas. But here, Ottoman ships capable of enduring months at sea begin appearing in waters they once claimed exclusively their own. In 1512, an Ottoman fleet rounds the Cape of Good Hope, not for trade, but to establish fortified harbors along the East African coast. By 1515, rumors spread of Ottoman banners flying in ports of Brazil. England and France, lacking the colonial empires of Iberia but sensing the shift, approached the Sultan not as rivals but as potential partners. Trade treaties are negotiated under Ottoman terms, granting European merchants limited access to spices, silks, and exotic metals, including, in small, carefully controlled amounts, the coveted aluminum ingots. Venice suffers the most immediate blow. Its merchant fleet, once the envy of Christendom, cannot compete with Ottoman shipping rates or speed. Trade routes through the eastern Mediterranean collapse into Ottoman monopoly, driving Venetian commerce into decline. Genoa, always opportunistic, aligns itself with the Sultan to secure favorable naval contracts. On land, the implications are just as profound. With the sea secured, the Ottomans redirect troops and resources toward Europe's vulnerable underbelly. Amphibious assaults on the Italian coast become feasible, supported by aluminum transports that can deliver soldiers and artillery in half the usual time. The Pope, alarmed, calls for a new crusade, but without a unified fleet to challenge Ottoman dominance, his appeal falls flat. The balance of power tilts visibly. Europe's Renaissance, instead of radiating westward, begins to mix with an Ottoman-led scientific flowering in Constantinople. Scholars from across the known world gather in the city to study not only the empire's libraries but also the mysterious lightning bath process, though the secret remains tightly guarded. By the second decade of the 16th century, the Mediterranean is no longer a contested sea. It is an Ottoman lake, and the Atlantic is the next horizon. Part 5: Economic Impact. By 1520, aluminum is no longer a curiosity confined to the Sultan's shipyards, it is the beating heart of the Ottoman economy. The empire treats it as both a military asset and a commodity as valuable as gold, yet infinitely more versatile. Production centers spring up in key provinces: bauxite-rich Anatolia, coastal workshops in Alexandria, and guarded inland foundries in Syria. Each is a fortress unto itself, ringed with soldiers sworn to protect the lightning bath process. Workers are trained under oath, forbidden to leave without permission, their families housed within secure compounds to ensure loyalty. The secrecy rivals that of Venice's glassmakers, but on a far greater scale. In our timeline, gold became the measure of wealth. Here, the Ottoman Sultan decrees the aluminum standard. All imperial coinage is backed by ingots stored in vaults beneath the Topkapi Palace. Trade agreements with foreign powers require payment in aluminum, forcing European merchants to accept terms that often leave them indebted to Ottoman banks. The economic ripple spreads fast. Shipbuilding transforms into a rapid, almost industrial enterprise. With lighter materials and longer-lasting hulls, maintenance costs drop sharply, freeing funds for expansion. Cargo capacity increases, meaning more goods flow along the empire's trade arteries. Spices, textiles, and precious stones flood into Ottoman ports, and out again to Europe at prices the West cannot match. Beyond ships, aluminum finds its way into civilian life. Market stalls display utensils that never tarnish, armor for palace guards gleams in ceremonial parades, and wealthy merchants commission furniture framed in shining metal. Architects experiment with aluminum roofing, creating mosques and public baths that dazzle in the midday sun while resisting centuries of corrosion. Foreign powers scramble to obtain the metal. Spain offers concessions in the Caribbean in exchange for shipments. Portugal proposes joint expeditions to the East Indies under Ottoman naval escort. England, lacking colonial leverage, tries espionage. None succeed in learning the true refining method, and all leave Constantinople with only what the Sultan permits. The empire's coffers swell. Tax revenues climb without raising levies, fueled by booming trade and resource control. Aluminum, light enough to be transported easily yet precious enough to command high value, becomes the perfect currency of empire. By the mid-1520s, the Ottoman treasury is the largest in the world, not in gold, but in gleaming bars of silver-white metal. And the world, willingly or not, begins to revolve around it. Part 6: Science and Culture. The aluminum age does not merely fill Ottoman coffers and expand its fleets, it reshapes the very soul of the empire. In Constantinople, the skyline transforms. Architects, freed from the weight and decay of stone and timber, experiment with sweeping domes and delicate spires supported by aluminum frameworks. The Sultan commissions the White Dome of Bayezid, a mosque whose silvery roof reflects moonlight so brightly that ships can navigate by it in the Bosphorus at night. Visitors from Europe write of a city that gleams by day and glows by night, as if touched by the divine. Artisans quickly embrace the new metal. Court jewelers in the Grand Bazaar craft intricate filigree designs, combining aluminum sheen with gold inlays and gemstones to create ornaments that seem weightless in the hand. Armorers forge ceremonial suits so light that even elderly viziers can wear them in procession. The people begin to associate the pale metal with both imperial majesty and eternal endurance. Science flourishes in unexpected ways. Scholars in the imperial madrasas turn their attention to engineering challenges once thought impossible. The lightness of aluminum inspires inventors to revisit the ancient Greek dream of human flight. In 1532, an Ottoman polymath named Semel al-Hakim constructs gliders with aluminum frames and silk wings, capable of carrying a man across the Golden Horn. While these flights are short and dangerous, they ignite a fascination with aerial travel. Medical applications emerge as well. Surgeons fashion aluminum scalpels and clamps that do not rust or dull, reducing infection rates. Portable cooking pots and drinking vessels become common among soldiers, improving hygiene on long campaigns. Even musical instruments change. Lutes strung with aluminum wires produce a bright, ringing tone, leading to a new style of court music known as the silver sound. Culturally, the empire begins to project a unique identity, not merely as conquerors, but as the stewards of a miraculous substance unknown to the rest of the world. Poets compose verses comparing the Sultan's reign to the incorruptible purity of the metal. Painters capture naval victories in which silver galleons gleam beneath stormy skies. In Europe, this cultural revolution is both admired and feared. Ottoman gifts to foreign rulers, an aluminum chalice for the French king, an ornate helmet for the Pope, are as much political messages as they are luxuries. They speak of mastery over a material that the West cannot produce, a reminder that the empire's brilliance is not only on the battlefield, but in the workshop, the library, and the artist's studio. Part 7: The Dark Side of Progress. For all its brilliance and prosperity, the aluminum empire carries within it the shadows of its own creation. The lightning bath process demands vast quantities of bauxite, and soon the easily accessible deposits of Anatolia and the Balkans are exhausted. Ottoman surveyors scour the empire's territories and beyond, identifying rich seams in North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and deep within the jungles of India. Securing these deposits becomes a matter of imperial survival. Garrisons are established far from the heartland, and the flow of aluminum ore is guarded like blood pumping through the veins of the empire. In conquered lands, resentment festers. Local populations are conscripted into mining operations under harsh conditions. Stories spread of red dust choking villages, rivers turned bitter from caustic runoff, and hills stripped bare in search of the pale metal. While the Ottoman court celebrates its gleaming triumphs, whispers of environmental ruin begin to circulate among scholars and merchants. The empire's dependence on aluminum also breeds strategic vulnerability. Enemies understand that cutting off the ore supply would cripple shipbuilding, trade, and military expansion. European privateers begin targeting Ottoman or convoys in the Indian Ocean, striking not at warships but at the lifeline that sustains them. Though losses are minimal at first, the threat forces the Sultan to divert warships from conquest to protection. Economically, the aluminum standard, once a source of strength, becomes a double-edged sword. As the metal floods domestic markets, prices for common goods skyrocket in foreign trade, making non-aluminum exports less competitive. Farmers complain that taxes are levied not in coin, but in raw ingots they cannot spend locally without severe exchange penalties. A black market emerges, smuggling aluminum into Europe where it fetches astronomical prices. Politically, secrecy breeds paranoia. The Sultan's court becomes a nest of intrigue, with viziers and admirals competing for influence over the aluminum foundries. Assassinations, once rare, become alarmingly frequent. Mehmet Çelebi himself, the man who began it all, lives under constant guard, aware that foreign agents, and perhaps even factions within his own empire, would gladly remove him to steal his secrets. The empire's glow remains dazzling from a distance, but up close, cracks are beginning to form. The question is no longer whether aluminum can sustain the empire's rise, but whether the empire can survive its own dependence on it. Epilogue: The world forged in white metal. 5 centuries have passed since Mehmet Çelebi first drew a fragment of pale, shining metal from his lightning bath. The world that surrounds us now would be unrecognizable to those of the early 16th century, and yet, its foundations are the same silver-white ingots that once filled the Sultan's vaults. The Ottoman Empire never collapsed. Its borders have shifted over time, but its influence remains global. From the skyscrapers of aluminum-clad Constantinople to the floating cities anchored in the Mediterranean, the empire's mark is everywhere. Airborne fleets of colossal sky galleons drift along established aerial trade routes, their lightweight frames allowing journeys across oceans without refueling. Wars are rare but decisive. Military power lies with nations that control bauxite reserves, and alliances form and dissolve based on the steady flow of the metal. The modern aluminum exchange in Constantinople sets daily prices that dictate the fate of industries worldwide. Gold and oil are relics of an earlier age. Aluminum is the lifeblood of commerce, construction, and technology. Culturally, the metal has seeped into identity. The crescent ingot emblem flies above embassies from Rio de Janeiro to Tokyo. Schoolchildren in every province learn the tale of Mehmet Çelebi, the visionary who gifted the empire its eternal advantage. In museums, the first silver galleon, preserved in its entirety, gleams under bright lights, a reminder of how a single discovery steered the course of history. Yet the shadows remain. Environmental scars from centuries of mining mar once pristine landscapes. Entire regions live and die by the aluminum trade, their fortunes rising and falling with the market. And somewhere in the imperial archives, sealed behind layers of bureaucracy and tradition, lies the original journal of Mehmet Çelebi, the only complete record of the lightning bath process. Even now, whispers persist that a simpler, more efficient method exists within those pages, one that could either usher in a new golden age or shatter the balance that has held for 500 years. The empire stands. The world adapts. And the pale gleam of aluminum still reflects the light of both triumph and warning. If the past was forged in white metal, perhaps the future will be, too. Thank you for joining us on this journey through an alternate past, where a single metal reshaped the fate of empires. You've been listening to Night Chemistry, your quiet gateway to strange histories and chemical wonders. Sweet dreams, and may your night gleam as brightly as the aluminum empire. Good night.